So, welcome you for this video tutorial. In this particular section, under the module 2, let us discuss about the authority, power and responsibility. First, let us discuss about what is meant by authority and how it has been implemented in the organization. Authority is the right for a position to exercise discretion in making the decisions with affects others. So normally whenever you take the authority, you have to take the decisions. So whenever you take the decisions, that normally affects the other persons in the organization, right? So manager has the authority to change the work assigned to any team members. That means he is having a choice to change the work from one to the other or from one place to the other place, and he can able to make the team to work in a definite direction. The three types of authority that is having is the line, staff and the functional type. Okay, line authority, the supervisor exercises the direct control over the subordinates. That means like a military, that is the marshal will tell the soldier, shoot him, that's all. That is a direct line of control, that is straightforward. There is no intermittent in between. So it is one-to-one contact you will be having, and one-to-one orders they will be receiving it and they will be executing it. The next comes is the staff type of authority. Under the staff type of authority, it is only an advisory authority, or he can able to give the advice to the people, but he cannot implement it. That is, he cannot ask him to completely implement the advice which is being given. That is what is the staff authority is. The last one is the functional authority. That is under the functional authority, one has right to give the orders to a segment or a group in an organization. That means the entire function or the entire role can be changed from one organization to the other organization, or one department to the other department. You can change the function. Okay, that is what is the functional authority. The organization normally will have all the three types, that is line type, staff type and the functional type, depending on the organization functions. Okay, within an organization there can be all the three types depending on the requirement. Okay, so this is the authority. Let us see the sources of authority. Under the sources of authority, there can be broadly divided into two types, that is the classical view or human relation view. Under the classical view, it is says the authority originates at the top and flows down to the subordinates. That is from top to bottom. That is the hierarchy says that from the CEO to the worker level, the authority will move from top to bottom. The other type that you have is human relations view. According to this view, the authority of the superior depends on the willingness of the subordinates to accept it. That is, how many subordinates are there, whether they are willing to accept by the superior or not, that will give the human relations view. A subordinate accepts the authority of the superior because he feels that he is the legitimate due to tradition, due to rationality, due to the charisma of the leader. He will accept him as a leader. Once he accepts him as a authority or a leader to give the decisions, he will follow him without any doubt. That is what has been said by the Max Weber. Okay, so the sources of authority will be two types, that is classical view, that is as per the hierarchy, and the other one is the human relation view. The people, depending on the tradition, depending on the rationality, depending on the charisma of the person, they will accept him and they will say that you are my boss and I am your subordinate, and whatever you say I will accept it and I will implement it. That is what he says. That is what is the two kind of authorities or the two sources of authority that you have. Next, let us discuss about the power. The power in a manager is the ability of an individual or a group to induce or influence. Here these two words are very important, that is induce and influence the beliefs or actions of other persons or the group. That means the other person or the other group where you have to induce or influence to convert the particular person or to ask him to behave in a particular fashion, the power will be used. Okay, power is a result of a manager position within an organization. Power is the ability to make the things happen according to the one's perspective. By instructing someone else to do it for you or for myself, that means you are making the peoples to work as per your wish, as per your directions, as per your need. You will be making them to work for you. That is what is meant by the power. The three main bases for the positional power that includes is the legitimate power or the reward power or the cohesive power. The legitimate power is the ultimate power. He is the supreme. Nobody can question him. That is, the God is the legitimate power. Nobody can question him. Whatever he gives, that we have to follow. Or the reward power. In the family, the fathers will have the reward power. Usually all of you might have experienced this. Like the father will tell, you score well in your PUC, I'll get you a mobile. You score well in your PUC or the SSLC or in the degree, I'll get you a bike. Or cohesive power is to make them to threaten or to ask them to behave in a particular fashion, otherwise he will going to punish. Okay, that is what is a cohesive power. Sometimes the peoples will use the different types of power at different situations, but these three types of powers will be normally used in the industry to make the workers to work in the organization. Let us discuss about the authority versus the power. The authority, it is an institutionalized right to control the subordinates. That means authority is being used to control the subordinates in a proper way. In the laid down, that is the rules laid down according to the rules, whether they are doing it or not, that is what will be controlled by the authority. On the other side, power, it is the ability of a person to influence others. Here you are not going to control it, you are going to influence the other persons. That is important here. It results, that is authority results with the chair or position, and it is continuous. Okay, authority will come with respect to the chair. That is, if he is a CEO of a person, or if he is a manager, if he is a shift in charge, he will be authorized to take some decisions. He will be authorized to take some instructions as per the higher order. Okay, and it is continuous. It will be there for always. But whereas in case of power, it rests with the individual and diminishes over a period of time. Either it may diminish or it may increase. That depends on a individual person. But normally in the history we have seen, from the Hitler to the smaller kingdoms, we have seen that it will go to a peak and then it will start diminishing. Okay, the power will have that particular cycle where it goes to a particular peak and then it start diminishing, because he will loses the power over a period of time. Okay, the authority is delegated by the superior. Okay, that has been given by the superior to you, so that you will be franchising it or you will be acting upon the authority. It is earned by the individual through efforts. That is, power is earned by the individual persons. Authority is well defined and finite. Okay, because there is a finite, there is a limit for that. Beyond that, you cannot able to franchise the authority. But whereas the power is undefined and infinite, and it is an infinite that you have. So since it is an infinite, that is where the effect of diminishing will appear. Okay, since it is an infinite, the authority, it forms the basis for formal organization. The power, it serves as a basis for informal organization, because it is always dangerous. The informal organization can be an advantage, or at the same time it is a disadvantage, but the formal organization never be a disadvantage. It is always, it is one direction, that is advantageous. Power may exceed the authority. This is a very ticklish issue, or this is the issue where how much of power and the authority should be there with the manager, whether the power will work or the authority will work, depending on the situation, depending on the circumstances, depending on the working area. You have to utilize both the authority and the power, such that you can able to get the things done in the organization. Next is the responsibility. Let us see what is the responsibility is and how to take this particular responsibility. It is the obligation of the subordinates to obey the commands of the superior. That is what is the responsibility. It is two dimension, that is for and to. That is, what is the responsibility for me to get the things done? That is one responsibility. Or the second responsibility, what is the responsibility to the person who is working under me, such that he can able to complete the job. So this is a two types of dimensions that you are having, where it is for and for to, both the things that will be responsibility for an individual person and responsibility to an individual person. Both will come to the picture here. Responsibility is the accountability to its superiors. That means whenever they say you are responsible for that, it automatically says that you are accountable to complete the work as said by the superiors. Right? Responsibility cannot be delegated. That means responsibility cannot be shifted from one person to the other person. It has to be handled by individual person itself. While the subordinate has operating responsibility, the superior has a ultimate responsibility. Okay, where the superiors will have an ultimate responsibility, or he will be having a responsible to lead the entire team, whereas the subordinates, his the responsibility is to operate, to convert whatever the superior says. That is what is the responsibility of a worker, or responsibility of a manager is to lead the team, is to lead the entire group in a proper way, is what is the responsibility of the superiors. Centralization of authority. The centralization of authority refers to the process in which the activities involving the planning and decision making within an organization. That means the authority, all the decisions will be taken within the organization, that within the boardroom, or within the CEO chamber, or within the regional manager chamber. That is, it has been centralized. Everything will be done at one place, or one particular person, or in one particular meeting. The authority will be taken. Decision making power are retained in the head office. The decision making powers are retained in the head office. That means centralized decision making they will be taking. They will not give the decision making at the different phases, or at the offshore, or at the site. They don't give it. They take the decision making at the center. In the centralized government structure, like what is there in India, that is a centralized government, PM and the CM. Okay, the centralized government is nothing but a prime minister. The decision making authority is concerned at the top, and all other lower levels follow the directions coming from the top of the organization structure. That means if the organization have a CEO, the CEO will take the final decision how the department should move, what should be the production for the next year, how the company should improve the quality. All these things they will be taking at the centralized, that means at the head office, and it will be followed by the other peoples in the organization. That is what is meant by the centralization of authority. What is the advantage of that? The advantages of centralization by the authority is coordination of the work is better, because from the top it flows from top to the bottom, so you will be knowing it, each and every person what is their role is, and coordination will be better, and duplication of resources is avoided. That means both managers will take the same decision can be avoided. That means manager from the north and manager from the south, they will both will take a duplication of work can be avoided, and decision is taken in the interest of the entire organization. That means they take the entire pan India, they will take it, and the decision they will take it such that it will be applicable to all sectors in that particular organization. Okay, the crisis management is better, because the crisis will come to one particular person and he can able to view it from the entire organization point of view and take the decision. Improved quality of work can be achieved through centralization. Disadvantages of centralization: it is bureaucratic leadership. That means the boss sitting at the head office will take the decision without consulting the peoples at the lower level, or without considering the people's view at the lower level. So bureaucratic leadership can happen most of the places. That is what has happened in the centralization of authority. Okay, remote control: other peoples will feel that they are remote control, they are unable to have any voice in taking the decisions. Delay in work, because if the peoples at the top, if they are unable to come to a decision, then the work will get delayed. Lack of employee loyalty, because they don't have a participative in the decision making, hence the loyalty will also reduce with respect to the industry because of centralized decision making. Next we will see the decentralization of authority. It is the tendency to dissipate the decision making authority in an organized structure. That means the clearly will give a dissipation. That means the manager to the north, manager to the south, manager to the west, manager to the east. Like this, we will have a different category, and that is a structured way. There will be a structured way, and we will give them the authority to take the decision making. They will give up to this amount, or up to this particular time period, or up to this particular crisis you can take, you can able to take the decision. Beyond that, you can able to pass it on to the higher department, higher employees in the organization. Okay. It is very important for an organization to decide the amount of decision making authority in the hands of different officers. That's what we have given, that how much to what extent they can able to take the decision. That is will be decided by the higher authority. In centralized setup, few peoples will take the decisions, while the decentralization, all the peoples at the lower level are also involved to take the decision. Okay, in this particular decentralized decision, the lower level employees, that is the employees at the lower level, will also contribute towards the decision making. That is important, because they know the exact position of that particular area, or the local power they will be knowing it, or the local problems they will be knowing it, so that they can contribute for the decision making in the organization. Delegation versus decentralization. Next topic that we have: delegation is a process, decentralization is a end result. Delegation is the superior continues to be responsible for the delegated work. That means the higher subordinates will give you the responsibility to delegate the work, and you will be doing it, whereas decentralization, he is relieved from such responsibilities. Since the decentralization happens, he has been relieved, the superior are relieved, because the decisions will be coming from the bottom to top. They will be knowing that what is the problem with respect to the lower level, and they will be bringing it to the higher level. Delegation is essential, decentralization is optional. Okay, depending on the type of organization, depending on the type of structure that they are having, depending on the type of industry, or depending on the locality in which, or the territory in which you are running it, depending on the social responsibility that they are having, depending on all these things or even the education of the people or the skills of the people. Based on all these things the decentralization keeps on varying. Optional, they can keep it. Okay, the delegation, it is a technique of management. Decentralization, it is a philosophy of management. It is not a technique of management. Delegation is, we will delegate the authority and the responsibility, looking at the position, looking at his capability, looking at the position in which he is working. But whereas the decentralization, it is a philosophy of our organization. Okay, the delegation is a responsibility cannot be delegated, whereas under the decentralization, authority with responsibility is delegated to the subordinate. That means at the lower level, the authority and responsibility has been given to them so that they involve in decision making. Advantages of decentralization. We'll see the decentralization advantages. Reduces the communication problem and red tapeism. That means bossism. That means I am the king of this particular organization. Whatever I say, everybody has to do it. This particular red tapeism is being completely avoided with the decentralization. Okay. Permits quick decision making, because the decision making is being taken at the lower level, and at the shop floor level they know what is the problem, they know what is the solution that they have, hence the decision making can be very fast. Okay. Relieves the top management with some burden. That means the top management need not have to think of day-to-day's work or the problems at the shop floor. They can think of something big, they can think of something creative, they can think of something, doing a better planning can be done by the top management. Gives managers more autonomy. That means the managers will have more autonomy to franchise at the workplace. Depends the completion within the organization, develops the completion within the organization. That means when you give the decentralization of authority, that gives them the completion. Somehow they have to do it and they have to complete that particular work or that particular job which has been assigned by the higher authority. That is what will be the mental attitude of the employees working at the lower level. Ensures the development of employees. Okay, it ensures the development, because once the people who takes the good decisions can be promoted to the higher level, and they can able to tell them to look after the entire region or the entire area that has been under the control of the organization. Provides for product dissatisfaction. Diversification. Product diversification is possible such that the higher level managers can think of going in a different way and can think of a better planning can be done, or better new product diversification can be taken up. Provides for development of more managers. That means you will need to have more managers so that you can able to control the work at the shop floor at the lower level. Okay, improves the flexibility in the organization. That means you can have the interchanging capability. That means you have number of managers so that you have choose the flexibility is available for you to choose the best employee or the best person to look after the entire region or entire organization. Disadvantages of decentralization. Difficult to uniform the policy, because when you are taking the decisions depending on the local problems or the local issues, then uniform policy will be very difficult for you to make it. So increases the complexity and coordination. That means the complexity and the coordination will become very difficult, because number of managers are there. The few peoples will be follow one person, and the few peoples will follow the other persons. Then it will become coordination will be difficult for them. May be limited due to non-availability of the managers, because the managers should have a skill to know how to utilize the power, the authority and the responsibility. If you don't know how to franchise the power, responsibility and the authority, then they are not a good managers. Hence it is a may be limited in that particular area. The training expenses will increase because number of peoples will be there. You have to train them properly so that they can able to maintain the organization, or they can maintain the workers. Hence the training expenses will increase, may result in loss of power for the top level managers. When it goes to the all the powers has been given at the lower level itself to solve, higher level peoples may lose the power for taking the decisions. These are all the disadvantages that you have with respect to the decentralization. Okay. Factors affecting the decentralization: the size of the organization. As the size of the organization is very small, there is no question of decentralization. If the span of the organization is very large, that is pan world, that means entire world it is being distributed, then you need to have a decentralization. You have to divide that. The centralization, the head of the organization will take a review of each and every organization's position and how exactly they are doing it. Okay. History and the age of organization. Depending on the history of the organization and the age of the organization, whether the decentralization may affect or it may be an advantage for them. Philosophy of the top management, what the top management thinks, how exactly the top management should function, that will be decided by the decentralization or centralization of authority. The abilities of lower level managers, that means if the lower level managers are not capable enough to handle the situation, or to handle the employees, or to handle the industry or the shop floor problems, then automatically the top level peoples have to come and they have to manage the things. Okay. Strategy and the organization environment, what strategy you use, what is the organization environment in which you are working. Okay, all these things depends on will have an effect on the decentralization. Okay, nature of management function, how the management is functioning, to what extent the management involved in decision making will decide about this particular factor. That is available controls, that means there are various local controls are available, the situational controls are available, the working controls are available, the caste is also one of the control, the sex is also one of the control, the male or female category of people who are working, that is also one of the control, the physical power is also one of the control. All these things will depend on how exactly the factors of decentralization or centralization will come into the effect. Okay. Significance of decisions, what decisions that they have to take, what is its significance, whether if I take a decision at the shop floor and if it affects the entire nation or if it affects the entire organization, then it will be difficult for you to take the decision, or decentralization is not suitable in that particular situations. Okay. Hence all these factors will have an effect on decentralization. So with this we have completed the three important topics, that is the power, authority and the responsibility, which need to be given, have the more versatile with respect to the manager, so that the manager can franchise it and can able to do well at the organization. Thank you.